Hello, this video is going to try to explain the new draft teller sheets and chief teller sheets for Wilmot United Church. And so a quick video here to show you how these differ from the old ones. The teller sheets, which would be used for the numbered envelopes, have an instruction set on the back. And the general process is that the two teller teams should work together to sort out all the numbered envelopes and order them, and then divide the piles in half so that each teller team has the same amount of work to do. And then when they open each envelope, the teller teams, they'll mark it whether there was cash in it with an S or a check with a Q, and then they'll write the envelope number here, whether it was check or cash here. That makes it easier to find errors after the fact. And then put in the values that the person has indicated, whether it's local, mission and service, capital, benevolent, etc., etc. So there's a column for each of the major headings, and there's a column for other as a catch-all. So because they're not pre-numbered, you use every row until you get to the end of your number of envelopes, rather than there being gaps, which should make it the sums easier to do. Another change is often there are weeks when there are two of a single numbered envelope, like two number 8s, for example. Put each envelope on a row, on a line, so that there are no hidden sums off of these sheets. Again, making it easier to find the answer, the mistakes if any happen. And then when all the envelopes for a particular team are done, if you need to use two sheets, do so. You just sum each of the columns, local, mission, service, capital, etc., and then you put the total here for all of those rows, which would be your total deposit for the envelopes that you handled. So this sum here would just be the sum of these columns. And then on the back you would indicate your cash counts and your coin counts and your check counts. So your number of 5s and then the value of that, and so on down to $100 bills, and you add up your total cash, your number of loonies and toonies, and then your total of other coin, nickels, dimes, etc. This sum of coin, and then the sum of cash plus coin, then checks, and then the total. And then sign it and pass it on to the chief teller. The chief teller's sheet looks very similar. It has the same columns here, but over here the chief teller needs space to identify somebody. So for example, here's a check, here's a givings that's identifiable, Jane Doe, but it's not numbered. And so the chief teller would manage this because it's an unnumbered envelope. And inside, the chief teller might find a check, and so they would mark that as a check and see that it adds up to 150, and the person has made as people often do, a specific request. So 100 for local and 50 for benevolent. So this is from Jane Doe, and then you can put down their address, 123 Main Street, E3A 1A1 is what it's mentioned on the envelope there. And it's a check, and it's $100 for local, and it's $50 for benevolent. And the chief teller would continue to do that for all of the unnumbered but identifiable envelopes that they have, identifiable donations, and do as many of those as necessary. The chief teller is also responsible for Sunday school givings, counting those up if there are any, and also loose cash. And again, the loose cash is just count out your 5s, your 10s, etc., and your coins, and then add the cash and coin together. There's no checks because, of course, that by definition is not loose cash. Similarly with the Sunday school, there's never checks in there. And so whatever is this number down here in loose, let's just say for argument it's $120 on that particular day, then loose comes over here. The loose always goes in under local. Well, no, that's not true. It could be split across several, because it could be in an envelope that identifies a specific target without identifying a person. That can happen. But the loose is by definition always cash. And then when the chief teller is done handling the loose and the identified but unnumbered envelopes or non-numbered envelopes, then he or she would also write down the two different teller teams. And so on a given day, they might be helped by Kelly and Bob. So the team is Kelly and Bob, and then they would take, the chief teller would transcribe the totals for each of those columns onto this row, and for the other teller team onto this row, and then simply add everything up in each column to get your local for the day, your M&S for the day, etc., etc. And then again, all of these columns give you your calculated total, which is the sum of all these columns. And then once all the checks and all the cash is put together, then the chief teller does the total bank deposit. So the total number of 5s and 10s from loose and from both teller teams, etc., etc. And same coin, check, and at the end there will be some total deposit that, cash and checks that are put in the deposit bag. And let's say, for argument's sake, that's $2,900 on any given day. And then the total calculated. That's the number that comes from here. Those are the numbers that are from an envelope. And hopefully everything balances out and you get a zero difference. And if they don't, then you can go back and look for your errors. And by having all of the envelopes ordered, it makes it easy to find errors. By having no gaps between rows, makes it easier to count the number of rows and the number of envelopes to make sure you didn't miss an envelope. By having no hidden sums, by making sure that every single envelope is captured as its own row, makes it easier to spot mistakes. And then when you're putting all the checks together, you here, for example, I'll just go back here to this example. So here, this is working on a teller sheet, not the chief teller sheet, but just a regular teller sheet. So there's envelope number 8. So we would indicate on it that there was a check inside and that it was $150 and the date was correct, etc., etc. So that was envelope number 8 is a check, and it was 50 for local, 50 for M&S, and 50 for capital. When all that's done, when all the checks are placed together, they should be sorted by value and then summed up, because again, it makes it easier to find any errors if there are any imbalances. If there's any notes that you need to write to Marlene or for anybody else, please remember to sign. Put your name at the top, the names of the tellers at the top of the teller sheet, the date, and there's a spot for the tellers to sign. The chief teller's name and the deposit bag number go here and the date there. So I hope you find this easy to use. I think it's less confusing, less error prone, and importantly, faster to find errors than our existing teller sheets and chief teller sheets. Thank you.